Hello and welcome to this video session with Saxo founder and CEO Kim Fournet and the Ukrainian ambassador to Denmark, Mikhailo Vydoinik. The session today where we're talking some 14 months after Russia invaded your country, Mr. Vydoinik. Kim, you invited the ambassador over in the weeks after the invasion to give the Ukrainian perspective on how this was impacting Ukraine and how the Saxonians and clients and everybody viewing the video could reach out and help whatever we could do. That's a bit what today is all about as well, some 14 months plus after the invasion.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we are 14 years down the road, so 14 months down the road, and you know, we have a similar discussion, which is absolutely terrible, and I think everyone in the free world thinks a lot about this, and there's a lot of stuff in the media, but I honestly believe that also to the extent that we can somehow give a little bit more bandwidth also for Mikhailo, Mr. Ambassador, to talk about the situation there, because it is, to me, and I think to many other people in the free world, this is a war between a peaceful country and peaceful people that like to live their lives in prosperity and freedom, and then a dictatorship that is an aggressor that threatens everything we stand for. And I think it's absolutely terrible. It's a lot in the news, but these things also have a tendency to kind of, it goes down the line because people get tired of listening to it, right? And I think that the absolute devastation you see in Ukraine and how women, children, old people, you know, people of all age are getting attacked, cities being completely destroyed, you know, massacres of the worst kind. It keeps going on in a country in Europe, and I think that to me is something that we can never ever forget as long as it goes on. And I mean, even after that, we should learn. So I think it's very, very important that we can somehow do what we can, because I know that our clients and our employees and everyone thinks like that and feels like that. So all our sympathies and support to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. And I really also hope that this, to an even larger extent, can unite the free world to fight dictatorship and you know, a situation where people are not able to live their life peacefully.
Indeed. And Mr. Ambassador, here we are. Last time around, it was those initial weeks of the war. Things were very dynamic and chaotic. Still a very brutal war. It feels like the front is somewhat frozen. Do you have any general comments on just sort of where we are with this conflict, with this terrible war?
Yes, sure. And first of all, thank you for inviting me here. I do remember very well. I thought that was yesterday, but already, as Kim said, 14 months ago when we met here in Saxo. I think the very first days since the invasion, Kim invited me here and we had a really good conversation. I think nobody back then could imagine to what scale this will develop and how horrible this war will be. We all hope that it will end soon, but unfortunately it's only escalating, and right now you say that the conflict looks like a little bit of frozen, which is not true. I mean, this war continues. Every day we have heavy hostilities. The front line, which our soldiers are now protecting, is up to 1,500 kilometers. It's a huge, and every day we lose our people. Russians heavily shelling on Ukrainian critical infrastructure. You all remember winter time when they started shelling on energy infrastructure and hoping that we will freeze, which didn't happen. We succeeded in you know, continue defending the country, and we didn't surrender. And it also due to the fact that we had, and we have many partner countries and also companies like Saxo and others who are on the private base helping us with generators, with many different stuff. So now, as you follow a little bit the media, the most heavy, I would say, battles are taking place in the eastern part of Ukraine, near Bakhmut, Vuhledar, Avdiivka, Donetsk and Luhansk in general regions. They're extremely heavy. When I talk to people who are coming from there, I mean, you can't imagine how many things are taking place there. Unfortunately, for the last more than a year, Russians destroyed a lot of infrastructure. Unfortunately, many people died, innocent people, including children. A huge amount of them, I would say that, thousands of children now are forcibly deported to Russia, which is a huge challenge for us to return them back. Russians don't count anything, so they continue shelling on civilian residential areas. They shell with missile on the cities, starting from Kiev and ending with the cities located in the western part of Ukraine. So every day our people listen to the sirens. Every day they have to hide themselves somewhere. Every day people cannot, of course, return back to a normality, so to say. You may imagine the feeling of the parents who every day take their children to the kindergarten and hoping that they will be able to pick them up back after the working day. So this war is really something which is difficult to describe. And also this war causes a lot of problems for the population in general and for the country. And I will be frank with you, without the support of our partners, it will be very difficult for us to resist the aggression. So for sure, one of the reasons we are also meeting here today is to continue our discussion about the needs. And the needs, unfortunately, are just growing. They are not decreasing. We need more and more support, both in terms of weapon supply, but also humanitarian aid. And we are ready to discuss in more details.
Have you seen a shift in the willingness of some of the allies we have here in Europe, the shift in attitude towards supplying the necessary equipment? You're just describing here the magnitude of the front line, the size of the front line, the huge battles.
Look, yes, I have seen, and I must say that opposite to what media sometimes report, that there is a kind of a fatigue or people are tired of the news coming from Ukraine. In terms of supply, it's just growing. I mean, the size of assistance coming from partner countries is growing, and we are extremely grateful for that. I remember again the first couple of days of the war, so we were asking just for the armored vests and helmets, so it's not a weapon. Because we were creating very quickly territorial defense groups, so people needed just at least, basic things like vests and helmets, and it was difficult to get from the partner countries. Now we are receiving Leopard 2 and Leopard 1 tanks, Abrahams and many other things, missiles and heavy artillery, Caesar systems coming from Denmark. Actually, Denmark is doing a really great job to us. I mean, in terms of the size of the country and being frank, I think the Danish army was not the best equipped, but Denmark is helping us a lot. And yes, we are extremely grateful for that.
And as we're coming into spring here, and I don't know to what degree you can or want to address this, but the talk in the media is of this hoped for counteroffensive from Ukraine. Do you care to comment at all on the counteroffensive?
Sure, but look, I mean, don't expect that we will, announce tomorrow that we are starting our counteroffensive. So there are some tactics, and our soldiers know what to do, and we all hope that this counteroffensive will be successful. I mean, we have no other choice but to win this war. There is no other options, and that is why we are also trying to explain to our partner countries that it is in the interest of all of us to win this war. As Kim rightly mentioned, it's a war about the future, not just of Ukraine, but of the whole civilized world, where you have authoritarian regime, dictatorship, and you have free world and people who wants to live in the free world, where nobody is allowed, to use force to change the borders or to occupy others' territory. So it's extremely important to remind ourselves about what is at stake, and and to continue supporting us. And I will tell you one story from our president's meeting also with the leaders, including with the Prime Minister of Denmark. We used to have such a saying that as Danes are pragmatic people. We always want to have very open dialogue with you. And the president very often says that, look, let's have a deal. You provide us with the weapon and we will do the rest of the job. So we are capable, believe me, our soldiers are really fantastic on the battleground. But we are also open to say that, yeah, Russia, the enemy is extremely big in terms of size, in terms of quantity of weapon they possess, in terms of human resources. So for sure, without modern NATO standard weapon, it will be very, very difficult for us to liberate our territories and to return back Crimean Peninsula, which was occupied in 2014, and part of Donetsk and Luhansk region. So our only goal is to return back our territories. We don't need anything else.
So pre-2014 levels and borders.
Look, everybody wants to do it as fast as possible. And there is a very small but very important reason behind that. Every day of delay in terms of weapon supply and ammunition and other stuff, we lose our people. And that's the best asset, the most precious asset we have in the country is our people. When President has a dialogue with the partners, he says, look, if I don't receive it today, but tomorrow I will lose again some people. So please, don't hesitate.
I think that the only positive thing about this is that it has united the free world and especially Europe more, but definitely also United States and many other areas. I think also to your point that your president then said, well, you know, help us and we will do the rest. I think it'd be naive to think that this is something that's only about Ukraine, and if we didn't do something, then it'd be all passing over. If people are completely not respecting those borders, and one of the free countries are being attacked, the very least other people can do is to say, I think, you know, we are not having our young people fighting a war in Ukraine, but that war could expand. So I think it's also for the rest of the world really to help everything we possibly can, right? And I think it's also, if you think about that's I mean, that's a kind of a promise and a deal that's never gonna get better than that for the people who are not in war, right? Help every way we can. And I'm glad that we are beginning to help a lot more. And again, there's a lot of political debate in many countries and so forth, but I think it's also really, really important that everyone understands this is serious business, right? And every day that passes by, it just gets worse. And it gets worse for Russians as well. But that's just a regime where if you say something and you even mention a war, you go to jail and they take you out of this, right? And I mean that they start also seeing Ukrainian children disappearing into Russia. I mean, it's kind of as terrible as it gets, right? So I really think it's very
violating Geneva Conventions, you know, by the way. And on that note, talking about the Russian perspective and your perspective on Russia, this is a very odd enemy to observers from the outside. An enemy where the war is supported, but at the very top, of course, Putin and his regime, but where the average soldier has zero buy-in. So how do you assess the morale, or is there any sense that they can continue on with this, or what's your assessment of the Russian side?
Well, the assessment is that we should take everything very seriously because the country is huge and it has a lot of military potential. And still, unfortunately, they are also able to produce new missiles and new type of weapon, and they continue doing that. But for sure, the morale is very low there, and as we can see, I mean, the enemy is not as dangerous as people were describing it. So we are capable to defeat them, and we showed already a lot of, let's say, positive changes on the battleground when we pushed them out of the territories which they occupied at the beginning of war. So we know how to do that. We are capable to do that. And we are more motivated because we are protecting our country. But Kim rightly mentioned, I mean, there is a lot of things at stake. And I would also stress the same, especially for people who are, let's say, not in Ukraine, because they think that it's somewhere far away from them and it will not have direct implications on them, which is not true. It has. Already this war showed that, Ukraine is a very important grain producer. So food security is at stake. Attack on our energy infrastructure also proved that many countries are dependent on what's going on in Ukraine. And it has direct, let's say, implications also on business activities. So nobody can plan something in advance because of the situation on the ground. So for sure, we should take it very seriously. And the world, especially now, the globalized world is very interdependent, I would say. And when some people think that, it will not, touch them or will not have implications on them, it's completely wrong. And then I have to stress it. So again, using this opportunity, we always are asking, please continue supporting, because it's extremely important for us to win this war. And it should be in the interest of all civilized world not to allow the aggressor, to win. That's very simple.
Can I ask just one question that again, it may be completely naive, but I just think that it's difficult to see the win-win here. And it's even difficult to see the win-lose. It's a lose-lose. Everyone loses. It's not that the Russian soldiers that get killed or the Russian families that have their sons killed or their fathers or whatever benefits. And again, I don't think that the Russians wants to kind of ruin their neighbor, where a lot of people, by the way, have lived and have families and so forth. So this seems to be very much a regime thing. It seems to be very much Putin. And I mean, I'm not so familiar with that culture, but I think if sanity and rationality prevails, which is clearly not doing right now, at some point there must be a limit to how far can you go by sending your young ones and even more elderly if you can't find the people, and you're taking all the new soldiers, not from the elites in Moscow, but far and away. I mean, in your mind, for how long can that go on? Because eventually, if the country says stop, then it will stop. And right now, I think it's naive to think that Putin will stop this unless he will be stopped. And I sincerely hope he will. But is this something that can just go on in your mind? Because is that just the mentality?
Look, unfortunately, it's also about the mentality. And unfortunately, Russians support this war for many reasons. One of the reasons behind this is also their imperialistic, let's say, mindset. So they are feeling that they can dominate, they have the right to do that, and this is their, sometimes even task to do this. First thing. Second, in terms of win-win or lose-lose, to some extent I would agree that we don't foresee the scenario that we will put, Ukrainian beautiful flag on the top of the Kremlin. It's not our goal. We cannot. And we don't wish, to occupy Russia or to defeat them on their territory. But the goal is for us to push them out of our territories. This is our goal. So could it be as a potential scenario that we will have always kind of the hot, conflict zone on the border with Russia? I don't exclude this. It could potentially be a scenario like between Israel and Palestine, or North and South Korea, that they are in the state of war for so many years. On the other hand, we also very much hope that together with with European countries, with USA and other, we will be able to return first our territories back, and second, to return international order into the current world. That's extremely important for everyone to understand. So for us, the winning situation would be when we return just our territories back, and I have I'm more than confident that while getting back the Crimea, we will see that Russian soldiers will not continue this war. And Russian elite will also, I think, see it and discuss internally what to do with this situation, because you cannot allow one person, be it even Putin, the president of the country, to dictate the future of the whole nation. So that is also what is at stake. And Russians, I think, already now started realizing that Putin did a lot of, let's say, bad things to them. I mean, he stole their future, because to be Russia is not popular anymore. And to say something. I could see even people, they were hiding on the streets and to acknowledge that they are coming from Russia. So for sure, we also think that this regime cannot last forever. And this is our joint task, how to bring this, the end to this regime. That's the goal of this war.
Here within the last few days, we've seen that a call was held between President Xi of China and President Zelensky of Ukraine. There was a long period where nothing was happening. There's the sense that China is happy to have a very integrated economy with Russia. Do you have any hopes of China's role here or any peace process that they proposed? I think it was back in February that they forwarded some not terribly specific plan for peace. How do you position China?
Look, in the current global world, of course, any support from big countries like China is important. And I think it is also in the hands of China to help to stop this war. But what is our red line? We do not negotiate with our territories. So yes, we are satisfied that our leaders had a conversation. It was a long, as far as I know, it was almost 1 hour conversation. So this conversation we were expecting, and we are grateful that they had this possibility to directly talk between each other about the future. As far as I know, our president introduced our vision of the peace. You know that the president last year came out with the initiative, we call it Peace Formula. It has 10 points. And as far as I know, and I understand also from the reports which are coming from Kyiv, there are a lot of common vision of this formula also coming from Beijing. So the president exchanged his opinion where China can help. He also invited Chinese president to join this peace formula and to help us to stop this war. But again, it should be stopped based on the international order and justice. So we cannot trade with our territories. That's one of the red lines which we will not cross. So we're looking forward to the further dialogue with China. You know that also President yesterday appointed a new ambassador of Ukraine to China, and we also put it as a positive signal in terms of having closer relations with China. We are also happy, at least the information I have, that we haven't found any Chinese weapon on the battleground which is used by Russian troops. So this is yet another proof that China is not supplying weapon to Russia. At least we cannot prove it because we don't see it used on the battlefield. So it's also a strong message for us that China is not supporting with military means Russian aggression. So yes, we are happy that this conversation is taking place. And as far as I know, President Xi also promised President Zelensky that he will send a delegation, special delegation, to Ukraine to continue the dialogue with us on the situation.
Okay. In closing, Mr. Ambassador, we alluded to ways that people can help your country, which is under assault on all fronts, and the economy is very challenged by everything. A war zone can't have a fully functioning economy. Sitting here in Denmark and appealing to Danes and just internationally, how can we help?
Look, I mean, you are doing already a lot, as I said, and yes, unfortunately, the needs are huge and you can continue supporting us. How to do that? There are plenty of things which you can do, starting from traditional donations, which you can do both either directly to the bank account which have been created by the National Bank of Ukraine, and as far as I know, we will also ask kindly you to spread this information about these bank account details. We have also a couple of NGOs which are currently working and operating here in Denmark, so people can also approach them and do this. Now we are working also on several separate projects which needs also some support from the partner countries. Some of them are humanitarian projects to help Ukrainian children, women, As many of the projects are now being implemented under, let's say, the patronage of the First Lady, of the spouse of the President. So some of the projects, maybe today we will have additional conversation with my wife because she's helping me a lot. And it's also about orphanage centers, it's about clinics for the wounded people, also for those who lost their limbs and they need prosthetics and other support. It's about bomb shelters, so we want to return people back to the normality, if it's possible to say so. And one of the reasons how to do it, to create conditions for parents so that they could come back to the cities and they could send their children to the schools or kindergartens, meaning that each school should be equipped with a bomb shelter. So there is a huge need in building these bomb shelters.
And we will provide links to a number of these things in the page where this video is hosted. There's also a very exciting cultural event with Ukrainian artists here in Copenhagen, May 23rd, May 24th. The links to that, tickets will be on sale for that. Ukrainian folk dancing, ballet dancers, opera singers, etc. So that is very exciting. Looking forward to that. And you're co-hosting that as well.
Yeah. This is also one of the reasons how you can help, because because of the war, culture is the first victim, I would say. So we are forced to close the theaters, to close cinemas, and people are without a job. So for sure, one of the tasks for us as the embassy is to promote Ukrainian culture abroad. And we are happy that we are organizing this gala concert here in Copenhagen. So that would be nice if you could for sure come. We are more than happy to invite you to join. It will be a very impressive performance. But of course, by buying the tickets to the gala concert, you are also indirectly, let's say, supporting Ukrainian artists who will come here. And also the plan is also that some money which will be raised during this event will also go to the First Lady Foundation.
Kim, was there anything you wanted to say in closing?
Not other than I think this is a very, very worthy cause, and all our best thoughts and hopes are for the Ukrainian people. And I would encourage everyone to keep supporting, and not only with money. I think money makes a big difference for obvious reasons, but I think also just supporting and discussing this so it stays top of mind of people, because this is a terrible situation. And Mihailo, thank you very much for coming in again and spending your time. I know you are extremely busy on this. It's a very important thing, and it's important for the Ukrainians without a doubt, but I think for the rest of the world and every single person on this globe that appreciates freedom and prosperity and the choice to choose. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim, and if you allow me, maybe a couple of final words also. As we are in the bank, we also, as the ambassadors abroad, encourage foreign companies to invest into Ukraine. Whatever it sounds during the wartime, but believe me, now it is also a huge help for us to resist the aggressor. So any business entities, I encourage also to have a look at Ukraine, to restore the business ties which you had before the war. If you didn't have, please look at Ukraine as a very interesting partner for you. We are, because of the, I think, motivation of our soldiers, we are capable to control the situation in the vast part of Ukrainian territory. So now a special fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine have been created. So please use the opportunity also of these funds to invest into Ukraine, to collaborate with Ukrainian business circles, because by doing this, you're also helping us to survive, you're also helping us to keep economy running, which means that we are capable to take care of ourselves first. Second, we pay also taxes, and the taxes go also to the army to support our soldiers. So through these investments activities and business activity, it is extremely important that you can also directly or indirectly support and contribute to our victory. So please look at Ukraine as a new investments opportunity.
Indeed. And let's hope in 14 months' time we can host another session here talking about the rebuilding.
Yes, that's for sure. We will do that.
Yes.
I think we will do it much faster.
I think it should be much
months.
faster.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Ambassador
Thank you.
Kim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.